The restaurant was buzzing that Friday night. Every table filled, waiters rushing back and forth, glasses clinking, laughter echoing through the air. At the corner table, a tall man ducked slightly as he walked in. His broad shoulders and commanding presence turned heads instantly, but he wore no flashy jewelry, no expensive designer suit, just a simple hoodie and jeans. To most people there, he looked like any other customer. But in truth, he wasn't just anyone. He was Shaquille Big Shaq Anderson, the silent owner of the very restaurant everyone was eating in. Shaq had built this place not just as a business venture, but as a symbol of his journey. Years ago, he had grown up hungry, often peering through diner windows wishing he could afford just one hot meal. Now, after years of grinding in business, he wanted to create a place where food and dignity were served in equal measure. But he rarely showed his face. He liked blending in, seeing how his staff treated ordinary people when nobody important was watching. That night, however, one waiter was about to fail that test. The waiter's name was Ethan. He was young, sharp-tongued, and ambitious, but bitterness had settled in his heart. He thought the world owed him more than serving tables, and his impatience often spilled out on customers he deemed not worth his time. When he spotted Shaq sitting at the table, casually flipping through the menu, his eyes narrowed. Ethan smirked. "Sir, just so you know, the prices here might be a bit high for someone like you." Shaq looked up slowly, surprised. "Someone like me?" Ethan shrugged. "I mean, we usually get professionals, executives, people who can actually afford fine dining. Just giving you a heads up before you order something you can't pay for." The words cut sharp, the tone dripping with arrogance. A hush fell over the tables nearby, other customers glanced over, shocked. Shaq, however, didn't raise his voice. He simply gave a small, calm smile. "Interesting," he said softly. "Well, I'll still take the ribeye steak. Medium rare." Ethan scoffed under his breath as he walked away. To him, it was just another night of venting frustration on someone he thought powerless. He didn't realize he had just insulted the man who signed his paychecks. When the manager came to check on Shaq later, she nearly froze in her tracks. "Mr. Anderson. You didn't tell us you were coming," she whispered nervously. Shaq raised a finger to his lips. "Sure. I'm just here to eat." But word spread quietly among a few staff members, and by the end of the meal, everyone except Ethan seemed to know the truth. The young waiter continued strutting around the dining room, blissfully unaware of the storm about to hit. After dinner, Shaq stood, leaving a generous tip on the table. He glanced toward Ethan and said, "Mind if we talk for a moment?" In the back, Ethan rolled his eyes but followed, assuming he was about to be scolded for his rudeness. What he didn't expect was to walk into the office and see the framed photo of Shaq shaking hands with the mayor, plaques honoring him as the restaurant's founder, and news articles celebrating his success. His stomach dropped. "You," Ethan stammered. "You own this place?" Shaq leaned against the desk, arms folded. "I do. And I also grew up knowing what it feels like to be judged for how you look. People used to laugh at me for walking into nice restaurants, assuming I didn't belong. Tonight, you made the same mistake they did." Ethan's face burned red with shame. His arrogance melted into silence. Now, Shaq could have fired him on the spot. Nobody would have questioned it. But instead, he surprised everyone, including Ethan himself. "You're young," Shaq said, his voice firm but calm. "And you're angry at the world. I see it in you. But if you keep treating people like this, you'll never get where you want to go. So, I'll give you a choice. You can walk out that door, and I'll accept your resignation tonight, or you can stay, and tomorrow you start fresh, apologizing, learning, and respecting every single person who walks in here." Ethan swallowed hard. His pride screamed at him to leave, but deep down, something shifted. For the first time, someone had looked past his arrogance and seen the brokenness inside him. With trembling words, he muttered, I want to stay. And I'll change. I promise." Weeks passed, and Ethan did just that. He greeted customers warmly, served with patience, and even took extra shifts to prove himself. Slowly, he became one of the restaurant's most dependable waiters. Shaq often sat quietly in the corner, watching the transformation with a small, knowing smile. One evening, Ethan approached Shaq's table, not with arrogance this time, but with humility. "Thank you," he said softly. "Not just for keeping me here, but for teaching me. Nobody's ever given me a second chance before." Shaq nodded, his deep voice steady. "Everybody deserves one. What matters is what you do with it." By the time months had passed, Ethan's life looked completely different. He was saving money, treating people with kindness, and for the first time, he felt pride in his work. He had learned the lesson that success wasn't about titles or appearances, it was about respect, humility, and how you treat others when you think nobody's watching. And the restaurant? It thrived even more, not because of fancy dishes or expensive decor, but because it became known as the place where every customer left not just full, but valued. The story of the waiter who insulted the owner spread quietly, retold by staff and regulars who had witnessed that unforgettable night. And though Ethan still winced when he remembered his mistake, he carried the lesson for life. Because sometimes, the person you look down on might just be the very one who holds the key to lifting you up. And sometimes, the greatest power isn't in punishing people for their failures, but in giving them the chance to change.